It says it's being live streamed. And we're live. And
just like that.
And we're back, guys. We can get our music intro. But we're just gonna move forward.
We're rolling with it today.
I love technology when it works. But guys, got a special guest for you. Well, let me back up. Welcome to Experience JL, the Anti-Guru podcast. Tonight, I've got a special guest with me, Mia Zambarano. She's an award-winning licensed mental health therapist who has committed her life to supporting people experiencing intense pressure and high expectations to overcome anxiety and optimize their performance. She was a former Division I college athlete, entrepreneur, full-time mother. She's no stranger to navigating pressure. I know that's right, being all of and made it her mission to help other high achievers do the same. So Maya, appreciate you coming on. We just want to know a little bit more about you. First of all, I want to know what inspired you to get started in this line of work.
In this line of work, yeah, absolutely. So as an athlete, I always had a competitive edge. I always enjoyed being on a team. I enjoyed being around other people. And naturally, what came with that is kind of supporting other people, right? Whether they're struggling on the field or just in general, like my friendships always meant a lot to me. My family life, has a lot to do with it too. And it came to a point in high school where I took a psychology elective, and it was just one of those moments where it made so much sense. I was like, why is this not mandatory? Why is this not part of the core curriculum? And just understanding how our mind works. It's kind of our governing system, if you will. Yeah. And that kind of really finalized the path of becoming a therapist. And, I did my undergrad, and even in my undergrad, while I was a college athlete, there's kind of two parallel stories that end up merging here. But throughout that time, I started working as a mentor with, certain high schools that were local. I was in Connecticut, so I was working with Bridgeport high schools. And then, I moved on to my master's at Boston University and kind of carried that through and hit the ground running. Kind of haven't looked back since. It certainly evolved throughout that time. And through all the trainings and whatnot, I was able to kind of really find my niche and where I found I specialized in. I got certified and trained in a couple of different modalities. Fancy way of saying like different techniques to work with people that's actually evidence-based,
Right.
So, that led to fine tuning and getting to the point now where I have my own practice and my own business, where I'm a therapist, and I'm also specializing as a mental performance consultant.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, so what exactly is that mental performance?
So basically, as a therapist, right, you need to prove medical necessity, which basically means, especially if you're going to go through insurance, you have to prove that it's inhibiting or affecting a certain area of your life, right? You're functioning in a certain area. It could be socially, it could be family, it could be work, could be whatever. And it could be so many different ways. And what I found was that some of these strategies and tools, it doesn't matter who you are, they could be beneficial. And it's, I was finding in my work with a lot of my clients that I would get to a certain point and they'd be functioning, they'd be doing well. And I felt like there was still so much more exciting work to do. And at that point, especially if you're working in an agency setting or again, something that's very insurance driven, you get kind of cut off. So I wanted to find a way to continue to support people, especially highly competitive people that know they could do better and achieve more. So using these evidence-based skills, not just to, meet a baseline of functioning, but to even perform at a higher level. And again, as an athlete, that really spoke to me because I saw what it was like. I mean, we see it all the time on the football field. Tampa's about to play tonight. So, it's like you see what it looks like when you know how to optimize and really use your mentality for you. And we know what it looks like when it's working against us. So I created a program that helps athletes, entrepreneurs, business professionals to basically understand and enhance their mental health while also understanding how to optimize their performance. And
Right.
that's really where that came from. So therapy, again, medical necessity, it's really inhibiting an area of functioning. And then the mental performance consulting is how do I make it that much better? Or how do I get rid of these barriers that I might not even realize are there so that
Right.
I'm reaching my greatest potential in whatever I'm doing?
Right. So, I mean, did this really your business really take off, during COVID? Because I know during COVID there was an upswing of mental health issues.
Mhm.
People were isolated
Absolutely.
and they didn't know how to deal and
Yeah.
all of these different things. I know in the Black community, mental health is one of those unspoken things. People
Right.
don't want to do anything about it, but
Yeah.
I find that almost everybody probably needs to have some type of therapy. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, here's the thing, and this is why I'm so passionate about what I do is we need to understand it doesn't matter who you are or what you do or how successful you are or where you come from. We all have mental health, just like we all have physical health. And
Right.
I think that's something we need to radically accept. Now, does that look different from person to person? Does it vary on a spectrum? Absolutely.
Mhm.
But why wouldn't you want support in that so that you're not just surviving, you're actually, again, like living out your fullest life or like having that really work for you rather than against you. So, do I think anybody could benefit? Absolutely. To your original question with COVID, I mean that was a wild experience. So when COVID first hit, I had actually just moved from Boston down to Florida in September, and that March was when everything completely shut down.
Right.
And being a therapist, I was actually in an agency setting. I was working out of a center at that time. We offer different intensity level services. People that are transitioning out of a hospital setting, that they were, are intensive outpatient programs, and then, basic outpatient too. And we were considered essential workers. So I remember, we had a breath, which was like maybe a week to kind of figure out what the heck was going on.
Right.
And then we were back in there. And it was intense. And, it was trying to navigate what made the most sense in terms of making sure we were serving the population who were in person and then also trying to keep everybody safe. But since then, it has not slowed down. We kind of assumed at certain points it might, but yeah, even through opening my own business, it's, the therapy aspect of my work has not slowed down, which, I'm grateful to have people to help. And it's just that much more pronounced of, again, we're all human at the end of the day.
Right.
And I think the less permission you give yourself to get help, you're just putting the burden on it. It impacts not just you, but everyone around you and everything you do.
Well, is there, how do I want to say this? Given the fact that probably almost everybody needs some type of regimen to keep their mental health,
Sure.
are there ways to identify when people are having difficulty other than, classic things like they go into a depression or they
Mm.
have some type of nervous tick or anything like that?
That's such a good point. Because I think what happens is we treat something as a norm until we're told that it's not. So
Right.
if you grow up or if you, for the majority of your life, function at a baseline that most would describe as anxious, but you don't know that, that's just how you survive.
Mhm.
You're right. You wouldn't know any better. So understanding your comfort levels when you're exposed to certain situations, if you notice that you're avoiding things, your levels of motivation again. So bringing it back a step, if it's keeping you from doing something that you want to do,
Mhm.
that's where you want to intervene.
Right.
That's, if you're avoiding certain situations, whether it's socially or tasks, if you're procrastinating a lot, if you tend to feel uncomfortable, if you notice your heart racing in certain situations, if you're really struggling with feeling motivated or inspired, or you question yourself a lot, you have a tough inner dialogue or monologue, I suppose, with
Right.
yourself, then those are some key signs that, you want support. And I think too, just kind of normalizing this in another way, I like to give kind of analogies, but as an athlete, as a student, you always have someone mentoring you or preparing you, right? You have someone teaching you, because how are you supposed to know the information otherwise, right? You have your parents first that model social cues and developmental things. And then you have your teachers that help, teach obviously valuable and necessary content for your learning and growth and development, et cetera. And if you're an athlete, like you wouldn't just show up and play a game. You go to practices, you're taught. So again, it's just baffling to me personally, like your mind that is literally in charge of helping you function and navigate all these things. Why would you not want to have someone that can help teach you how to optimize that or use it, or navigate? Because life is life. There's always going to be something that happens. Again, we're all human. Like, why not have that skill set to be able to navigate when something inevitably does happen?
Well, I think some people, they go from one extreme to the next. Like, I'm normal,
Fair.
and then now I'm crazy. No, you're not crazy.
Right.
Because I know for myself, I do this often, especially when I'm doing routine or tedious work, like if I'm gardening, I'm just tilling soil. I replay things in my mind, sometimes past experiences. Some of them are good, a lot of them are bad, where I had a bad experience, and I'm thinking, is there something I could have done different, or something I could have done better, or should I've handled that better? And I've always thought, is that quote unquote a word normal, or is that okay to do that?
So it's obviously, again, it's on a spectrum, right? We call them thought ruminations, but really understanding what that process is and normalizing it. Yeah, that's a lot of why I'm passionate about, why I want to, improve, be able to come on shows like yours and talk to incredible people and be able to just understand this process more. We are survival based creatures at our core. So we are wired to sense and try to navigate fear. We're pack animals too. We want to be accepted. We want to be of value. It's just kind of the human experience. We need to acknowledge that. So when you're talking about, which I think all of us can relate to, is kind of replaying these things, or you're having conversations with people that may or may not ever happen, but they're very detailed. And like, what else could I have said or done? It's because your brain is trying to figure out how to protect yourself, and we don't always understand that's what's going on. So we don't always take the most effective route, but it's trying to protect you from a core. And sometimes that serves you and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it becomes counterproductive. We overshoot. And really the core function of that, we're not crazy. We don't want to judge what's happening, but the more we understand that we're really just not only trying to protect ourselves, but thrive and feel of value and have that safety and security in our lifestyle and our relationships. That's really a lot of what our brain's trying to do. It just doesn't always understand how to do it, which is, again, where people like me come in.
Right. Now the one thing that I found, because I had some serious challenges a while back in my business, where I think we talked about it previously, where I was just pushing, and I had a breakdown. And when I was able to come out of that, I found this. I don't know if it's a practice or it's a method, but I was on with YouTube or something, and this person was talking about grounding. And I don't know if you're familiar with that. Well, I'm sure you are.
Very. Yes.
I found that grounding works really well because, and if anybody doesn't know what grounding is, we are, like you were saying, we're creatures of nature. With all of this artificial material that we surround ourselves with is not natural. And grounding at the root, what I do is I just take my shoes off and I walk around in the grass and I feel the planet, because the planet is alive just like we are. And it's almost like a reset for me.
Yes.
And so that's the technique that I use. Besides, I'll stop and sit on the porch and listen to the birds and the bugs and everything else, and just listen and my breathing, or count my breathing, and then I go out and walk in the yard and take my shoes off. Now I don't do it in the winter, but
yeah, please don't. No, that's a great point. Grounding is a very effective means, kind of to the line of what you were talking about, of using your senses to reconnect with the moment. It's a practice of mindfulness, of rooting yourself back. Because when we get so caught up in future tripping or ruminating about the past, it's a way of bringing yourself back to one thing right now. It's a mindfulness practice, and it's extremely effective.
Yeah. So Mia, what are the kind of tips or insights or things that you could give to the audience? I'm sure everybody, like you say, everybody has something that they may be dealing with, even if it's just under the surface, to help people like I say, quote unquote, the word, I don't like to use normal because there's no such thing as normal, but to get you to an equilibrium, or your balance.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things, and we kind of touched on this, is just not judging your needs, just being honest with yourself and not putting it on you to have to do it alone. I think that's where we tend to struggle the most. And again, we're pack animals. We weren't meant to do it completely on our own. So just giving yourself permission to, one, be honest with how you're feeling and what's going on with your life. And then, whatever way you feel comfortable in approaching it, just give yourself permission to lean on support. I think not judging what you're going through, because we've all experienced different variations and different intensities. But again, none of us are immune to it. We all have mental health. We're all going to experience different things. It's going to impact us in different ways, and just don't keep it to yourself, because you're just going to hinder your life experience. It's going to impact your relationships and how you're showing up to everything else. So not judging what you need. Spend time with yourself, get to know yourself. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of shoulds and what you should be doing and shouldn't be doing, how you should be feeling and not. Spend time with yourself and just, get familiar with that relationship, so you can have that understanding of what's working for you and what's not truly. And, kind of what we were saying before, of like just knowing what your baseline is. Is it working for you? Is it comfortable? Is there something you want to change? Another thing that, we hear so much, I just feel like has been so pop culturized, is this idea of self-care. Right. The very basics of self-care is just the quality in which you're taking care of yourself. Sure, right. It can be the bubble baths and the spa treatments and whatever, but really a lot of it is about, like, am I meeting my basic needs? Am I fulfilling kind of what my needs are? Because if I'm not, your brain's not going to focus on anything else higher ticket that you might want it to be doing. And the more we try, this is kind of the performance work I do, but I find that the more we try to achieve and the more we try to do, the less we give back to ourselves, and the less you're going to have your consistent success, because you're going to burn yourself out, or it's just, you can't keep up with that. If you're constantly going, you were talking about it before, right? Going, push, you don't give anything back. The foundation's going to crumble. So just kind of redefine for yourself what that looks like to take care of yourself. I'm not a nutritionist, and I'm still going to say, like, what does your nutrition look like? What is your, staying hydrated, getting enough sleep, having a routine, right. Setting boundaries, not saying yes to everything, and also not saying no to everything, not closing yourself off too. There's different, sides of boundaries. So, just redefining self-care and making sure. I know it's easy to say, like, oh, I don't have time for that. And, you're just going to hurt yourself and again, all of your experiences if you don't prioritize that. So that's a big piece, I would say.
I was when you were talking about success, I had to redefine my definition of success, because a lot of people, they talk about the money and the cars and the homes and all these things. And a brief story, there was this guy I used to follow when I first started in the online space, a big time network marketer. His name is Lawrence Tam. He was an engineer before he started his journey, and he gazillionaire guys, making all this money. And I never forget, I read his blog, and he wrote in his blog one time that he had made all this money, but he was so unfulfilled because he'd taken the trips, he bought all the toys, done everything to do with money.
Yeah.
And then he realized that he's decided he was going to be more of a philanthropist. He started building wells in Africa for people, so water. He started building schools, and he found that that was more fulfilling, because the acquisition of wealth, in my opinion, should never be the driving force in your life, because how much money, the more money you make, the more money you want. And then I used to say, if you make all the money, everyone else is broke and your money's no good.
That's a fair point. Yeah, having a why and being able to attach it to something that's truly meaningful to you. Again, not what we should want or what we should have or what you see everybody else doing. That's a really fantastic point, redefining success. And I've seen it. We've all seen it. Unfortunately, we've seen it in the news too. They're highly successful, highly wealthy people. It's not always all what you need it to be,
It's not, because like I say, my definition of success, I'm going to give it. I've done it before. But my definition of success is the beneficial footprint that I leave on society.
I love that.
have I helped? How many lives have I changed?
Mm-hmm.
Well, people have been around me and they've been better. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a better legacy than any amount of money
For sure.
that I will ever make. And it definitely has made it's changed my whole life. It's changed my business approach and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
that drive and trying to make it. I'm trying to make this money. And now when I make money, it's great. If I don't make money, it's okay too.
You just hit the nail on the head too. I feel like if you truly align with what's important with you and your values, the rest will come.
Yeah.
Right? It's not to say like, oh, you can't strive to make a lot of money or have these things, but why? Right?
Yeah.
Like why is that important to you, or what's the point? And if you can really dial into a why that's valuable, and I love like kind of the language you're using with legacy and your imprint and all these things, then fantastic.
Yeah.
But if it's a shallow why, it's not gonna sustain, or it's not gonna mean very much after a while.
True. Because people talk about you. My mother used to say a long time ago, she said, they don't talk about nobody. They talk about somebody. So you're somebody in their life. But I find that, like when I was a bartender, I'll be brief. I was a bartender. There's a group of people who thought I was God's bartender. And there were people who thought I was the devil's bartender. And I used to ask which one of those is true? Say both. Because perception is reality.
There you
But
go.
I care enough to let either one of them sway me. I mean, even the people that think I'm great, I'm not going to try to be greater just because they think I'm great. I'm just going to be who I am.
Right.
Chips fall the way they may. Like I said, they talked about Jesus and he was innocent, and talked about him so much they decided to kill him. So I mean, talk about me all you want.
Yeah.
Well, Mia, I certainly appreciate you coming on and spending this time with us. If folks want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Well, hopefully we'll set up some tags too that you can easily find me. On Instagram, I'm at LE_VIE_psych. And I can be reached on LinkedIn, Mia Gardner-Zambarano. And on Facebook, there's a number of ways too, and we'll link that because I know we're live there. But yeah, my website is also levilifestyle.com. So hoping to connect with you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, happy to connect and set up a consultation. So
Great. Sounds good.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, guys, we're going to try to end the way we tried to start with and let's see if we can cue this music. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, guys. I'm on every Monday evening, 7 p.m. Remember my 3 R's: respect yourself, respect others, and always, always take full responsibility for your actions. We'll see you next Monday at 7 p.m. Later.